Sorry, Gina, my wife's name, to whomever was next to me, and that was it, blackness. My senior engineer had ran to my position immediately after I stepped on the IED. He realized what had happened right away and radioed to our medic that I was down. When they found me, I was laying on my side screaming, trying to get up, all of which I don't remember. I placed my right leg directly on the IED, which in turn had vaporized my limb. The remaining portion of my right leg was a bloody stump of tissue and bone that looked like an exploding cigar you see in a cartoon. My left leg was so badly fractured and broken, it had to be amputated. My right arm parts on the left also, tearing away at my forearm and shattering 2 fingers on my right hand beyond repair. Physics is an amazing thing. There's no shrapnel in this IED, just an extreme change of pressure that tore and ripped its way through my body. I was medevaced approximately 15 minutes after the explosion with shallow breath and a very weak pulse. When I arrived at the trauma center at Kandahar Airfield, I was still responsive and mumbling to the medics, all of which I don't remember. I was immediately intubated and sedated. I had lost an extreme amount of blood. The doctors ended up placing a total of 75 units of blood back into me. The human body only holds 10 to 12 units. They had to put so much blood back into me, they stopped caring if it was even my blood type. The doctors told my wife there were 2 reasons I was still alive. First, my medic and my senior engineer had done a textbook job of placing tourniquets all over my body. In the moments of chaos, seeing their teammate and leader torn apart, my 2 teammates didn't hesitate and did exactly as we had practiced and planned. Number 2, I had a strong heart and a will to live. The doctor said you could do everything medically perfect, but it eventually comes down to the patient's will to live in an instance like this. My ability to suck up the pain of staying conscious, to keep breathing even though it hurt, helped save my life physically and mentally. 3 days later, I woke up not knowing where I was. Everything was blurry and fuzzy, and I couldn't focus on anything. It felt as if my 5 senses had been reset. I felt someone next to me, and I tried to speak through all the tubes coming out of me. Water, water, I whispered. I was dying from thirst since I hadn't drank for the past 3 days while being sedated. The nurse gave me a sip of water. I couldn't see her face, but I felt her comforting me, standing next to the bed. Captain Harrow, do you know where you are? She asked. No, I tried to say. You're in launch to Germany, she replied. Right away, I knew something bad had happened. Only the most serious casualties are medevac to launch school before the flight back to the States. What happened, I asked. You stepped on an IED, she said. Did I lose a leg? I asked, my mind starting to race. I'm sorry, but you lost both legs above the knee, she answered. I was silent for a second. Do I still have my dick? I calmly asked. Yes, you still have your penis. Okay. Do I have my arms to start to run down the list? Yes, you still have both arms. You suffered significant soft tissue loss and 2 fingers were amputated, but the doctors are going to save your arm. Okay, 2 fingers. But I still got my dick, I double checked. Yes, you still have that. Alright, and I passed back out. Waking up in the hospital with no legs is pretty much the craziest situation that you can be placed in. I had no previous experience with any of this, no idea what to expect or what to do. But I knew where I wanted to be and what I had to do to get there, and that was to be walking. So much of my right femur had been blown off from the blast that prosthetics didn't fit me. All I wanted to do was stand up and walk. I've been an athlete my entire life and I was a Green Beret. I'm not supposed to be stuck in a wheelchair. But the doctors and physical therapists told me that this was it. I told them that this was unacceptable. I'll find a way of my own. I did my own research on prosthetics, became a subject matter expert on orthopedic surgery and discovered web. Through my own research, I discovered a procedure that women in China and Russia do to make them taller remodels. They have their shin bones broken and stretched out during the healing process. I thought if they can do this to shin bones, why not a femur? I took my idea to several doctors and finally was put in touch with an orthopedic specialist from Minnesota who was trained on a non-FDA approved state-of-the-art device created by a Russian doctor who developed this procedure while stuck in Siberia in the 1960s. This procedure called for the doctors to break my femur, drill a cavity into my bone, insert a device the length of 2 AA batteries stacked on top of one another, and then screw the device into my bone on either side of the break. Then they buried a radio receiver up on my hip, which was connected by a thin wire through my bone to the device. 4 times a day, I placed a radio transmitter next to my hip, sending a signal to the device in my femur, which turned the gear, stretching my broken bone. 2 operations later, and 11 months of stretching out a broken bone, I set 2 medical world records by lengthening the shortest bone ever and regenerating the most amount of bone ever, 6 inches. That's half a foot of leg I moved back. No matter if it was combat, rehab, or my future endeavors, I've had a plan in place. You never know when you'll need that tourniquet or your teammate will. Always plan for the worst and hope for the best. Deo Press Bear, thank you.